Welcome back, everybody, to our Dancing with the Stars recap. For those of you who are new here, this used to be kind of a Dancing with the Star Bachelor crossover that somehow was morphed into a full-on Dancing with the Stars recap. Why should you be listening to us? Well, Amy and I have been dancing together amateur for about 12 years, won a few championships over the years. So we kind of have a modicum of clue of what we're doing here. But the structure of this is pretty straightforward. I watch the dances and only the dances, no judges, no commentary, no crowd reviews. Amy watches the entire episode. We're going to kind of run through the recap, and I'm going to score everybody where I score, and Amy's going to tell me why the judges think my scores are wrong. But before we get into it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And also, if you're a Bachelor enthusiast, make sure to go check out our videos on The Bachelor, Bachelorette, Golden Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, all of that good stuff. We just wrapped on Golden Bachelor season 1, Joan Basso's season.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Happy that you're here. Hit that subscribe button. As Chris said, we love all of the engagement in the comment section. We love hearing your take on things. Chris has a lot of opinions, but so do you all. So keep them coming.
So let's start off with the themes. What were the themes? Because I could not figure them out this week.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but the theme was semifinals. It's the
boring theme.
Episode before the finale. So that was the overarching theme. The idea was that couples would be, at least one couple would be eliminated before the finale next week. And so what the pros and stars were tasked with was doing one rhythm dance and one smooth or traditional ballroom dance. And and if you noticed as well, the performance times were also longer than they have been in the past. And these are also styles that they've not yet done before. So they had quite a feat ahead of them tonight for the semifinals.
Okay, that makes sense. I picked up on the rhythm and smooth pairings, and it did feel like the dances were longer, but I honestly wasn't really checking the clock that closely, but it did feel that way.
They're about a minute 45.
Yeah, exactly. So this was really themeless week. That's what this was. So the theme was we have no theme.
No, the theme, and when we get into each of the performances, the theme really was semifinals, and it was really interesting to think about the way that different stars approach this, particularly because we have, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, we have Olympians, and so just kind of hearing how they geared up for this was also pretty interesting.
Okay, well, before we get into that, I have a little commentary that I want to make on. It's really more of a comment to production, right? And that is Paso Doble more. So here's the thing, like, don't get me wrong, I am throwing no shade at Paso Doble. I like the Paso Doble. I think it's a cool dance. I think it's an underutilized dance, but we only started this doing a couple of performers. We're doing Joey and Jen and Danny, and that was it for the first several weeks. But even just seeing them with this week, I've seen at least 4 or 5 Paso Dobles. Why is that noteworthy? We've been dancing for about 12 years. We have gone to many competitions. Some of these competitions are weekend-long competitions where we see 4, 5, 6, 700 performances. And even with all of that, we would go years without seeing a Paso Doble performance. Years, right? That's
so what you're saying is
thousands of performances.
It's not as widely popular as some of the others. I mean, if you were a producer on this show, if you were one of the creative directors, what would you sub in instead of Paso Doble?
Well, here's the thing. Exactly. We have never seen a Paso Doble in the wild. We have never been out and about, somewhere and seen somebody whip out a Paso Doble, right? And so it just feels like it's overrepresented pretty significantly in the show. But we haven't seen a single hustle. Right now, hustle maybe not great for this venue. Sure, haven't seen a merengue. Again, merengue I think is kind of the basket weaving of the rhythm dances, but still haven't seen one. There's been a lot of this. Argentine tango is another one where it's overrepresented. We don't see any that much Argentine tango in the wild either. So it just feels like they're kind of gravitating outside of the core 8 to 10 dances, depending on how you want to qualify core, the 4 or 5 rhythm, the 4 or 5 smooth. And they're really going sort of the outskirts in a lot of cases. We've had Charlestons, we've stuff like that. It's
Mm.
been kind of interesting to see where they're leaning into, and it's
Well,
not necessarily leaning into the core dances.
Well, at the end of the day, they are still producing a show that's for entertainment. And the thing, and we'll get into it, like Paso is so theatrical. Like, wow, like what performances you can get there. And so I can imagine, and Argentine tango, are you kidding? Like, we've seen incredible Argentine tangos over this
Mm-hmm.
season. And so I think that also is what they're wanting to do. They're producing a show. Like, you can do so much with these dances. And yes, I mean, we love hustle. That's like one of our go-to dances. It's so versatile. But what are you going to do with that on a big stage and a big performance that also has to translate on TV?
Those shadow walks that you hate.
I hate.
Yeah. Well, to your point about Paso, I do actually think that you and I should learn more of it because it's definitely a dance. It's on the outskirts for us. We've done very little of it. Because when we go on vacation, we always have a rock night, and it's
Mm,
basically a dead night for us. We just basically half the time we just don't even bother going out that night. We just stay in the room. It's an early to bed type of night because we have no real dances to dance that evening. Paso would actually fill that gap. So like I actually am on board maybe learning a little bit more Paso.
okay.
But
Well,
one
we'll
other
tell
comment
Ricardo.
before we get into it. Yeah. One other comment. Is there any single dance that you just know exactly what dance the couple is about to dance based entirely on their costume? Does that exist in any other dance other than Paso? You don't need to hear music. You don't need to hear an announcement. You see what the woman's wearing. You're like, Paso Doble's coming every time without fail, right?
Well, I don't even know. I mean, I disagree with that. But
Really?
if that's where you want to go with that, all right, we'll go with
I look.
that.
I'm big on the paso. I think the costumes are great for it. I just it's such a well defined dance. That's really
It's
what it
very
is,
well
and I think
defined.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. It's fantastic. But anyway, we've gone long on my rant about paso. It's really not a rant on paso. It's a rant on production. So shall we get into the dances?
Yes, please.
So
Um,
you tell me what where are we going? What order? What are we
okay, so
doing this
let's
week?
let's do it in the order that we've seen. So we're going to do the first round of dances in that order, and then we'll do the second round of dances in the order that we got them. So
Okay.
Chandler and Brandon kicked off the episode tonight with a salsa.
All right. Salsa, one of our favorite dances,
Yes.
probably our
So I was
strongest dance
very
currently.
critical of watching this. So yeah.
Yes, so for Chandler's dance, I thought this was the weaker of her two dances. That being said, I thought it was a strong performance. She's clearly a natural performer. She's what, an actress in real
She's an
life?
actress, but she does have a dance background.
Okay, it shows. She
Yeah.
is, I mean, she had great rhythm. She looked so comfortable in the dance. Um, the thing though that about this that was the most impressive was probably something that was lost on the audience, and it's actually something I was critical of in her Argentine tango a few weeks ago, and that was her individual control over her own steps,
Mm.
especially in her turns. It felt like if Brandon was just not there at all, she would still have been able to maintain control. There was a beautiful spin she did, and it was she had step, pivot, close, step, pivot, back step, and it was like beautifully crisp. Like, and so the really interesting thing, the last dance lesson I went by myself. You were in Miami, and me and Irita are working on a pattern, and she has me do a turn, and usually you're the one doing the turn. And literally 12 years into dancing, I was literally drilling that exact step pattern that you do naturally because you're fantastic at turns. And I sat there and watched Chandler do it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I just
Mhm.
was drilling that with 12 years of experience, and she executed it better than I ever did. And so I'm a big fan of Chandler's. I understand why people thought she was the front runner, and it was a strong performance
Mhm.
all around.
Yeah, no, listen, I think she's fantastic. Like just the fluidity of her body, especially as we get into her foxtrot, like she's like liquid. Like she's
Mhm.
amazing in the way that she's able to kind of like move and flow with the music, and she has a lot of personality that comes out when she dances,
Mhm.
particularly in this salsa. One thing that they showed in the preview was like a little bit of her difficulty in getting the dance into her body, and so they did go to a salsa club, like just to try to get like the feel of the salsa. And for me, that's what I was really missing in watching this dance is the vibe of salsa. It felt a little, despite me saying like her body felt liquid and loose, like it felt a little stiff. Like salsa
Mhm.
is so close. It's meant to be so sexy and seductive. And I just didn't totally get that energy from the performance and the way that like the judges commented on. But all of that to say, I mean, it was fantastic, better salsa than I could ever do. But it just felt a little too
It had more of a
not as
cha-cha vibe to it.
exactly. That's what I was just gonna say.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yep.
So what is your score?
9.
9. Okay. All right.
Coming in
So
hot this week.
that's a great strong start. So Carrie Ann said that Chandler's artistry was great and applauded the routine, calling it amazing. Derek said that she danced as if she was already in the finals, though he wished there was more salsa content. And
Mhm.
Bruno also commended the performance on its heat and sensuality. They earned 2 10s and 1 9 from Derek. So I
Overscored, but
think when
that's
you're
fine.
on par with Derek, I feel like Derek is the most like reasonable
Reasonable.
judge.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
So yes.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
So who are we on
Let's
to
move.
next?
We're on to Joey's Foxtrot.
Oh boy. Okay. I hate the foxtrot. We all know this. The reasons why don't matter. Before we get into Joey's routine, I just do want to point out you're still on with the green suits. More green suits. Apparently, they're in vogue right now. Okay. This routine embodied everything that I hate about the foxtrot. Bad music, gimmicky routine, and you're just like bouncing and bobbleheading around the floor. I hated everything about it. That being said, he performed it really well. He had a very solid frame. He had good timing. He had good energy. His arms have improved. I've been critical about that. They're not great. They're barely good, but they're definitely improved. And so I think that, given that he didn't pick the music, he didn't pick the routine, and it's just the worst of the smooth dances, the worst of the core dances. I thought he did as good a job as he could have done with this thing.
Wow. Okay. So just a little backstory behind the scenes. Joey is a competitor, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you definitely see that. And one of the things that they kind of highlighted in their package leading up to this was, he's kind of reeling from not getting a perfect score. Like he was really wanting a perfect score. And so he was like really drilling this really hard. And they were kind of talking about about that and kind of like really hitting this and getting this right. I actually had a lot of fun watching this performance. I thought his performance, like the facial expressions, the way he used his body, he was just so in the performance. It felt
He's a
light. It
he's a
felt
great
fun.
performer.
He's incredible, honestly,
Mhm.
incredible. Foxtrot is not my favorite dance either, although this episode I might have been converted. I don't know. But I had a lot of fun watching it. I really, really enjoyed it. And so I hear you on Foxtrot not being the fave, but I thought he knocked it out of the park. I watched it
Just
maybe 3 times.
bobbleheading around.
But there was no bobblehead. He was
There was a
sturdy and
little
he
there was
was
a little
firm.
bobbleheading around.
No, he was effervescent. Like there was so much energy to what he brought. Like that's what Foxtrot is. It was just light and bubbly, and I loved it. I thought it was great. But what is
Okay.
your score?
To prove to the world that I can contain my own biases, 9.
All right. Well, the feedback is Derek said their Foxtrot was one of the best he's ever seen. Bruno praised the routine as fantastic, crediting Jenna for choreographing a pure, high quality foxtrot. And Carrie Ann basically said the race is on. They received a perfect score for this routine, and I'm here
Okay.
for it. They were great. They were great. And one of the things that they also talked about in their commentary is how this was giving like old Hollywood, like old school foxtrot, like
Yeah,
that
gimmicky.
traditional.
You have your words, I have mine.
All right. All right. Let's move on to Alona and Alan doing their paso.
Paso. Okay. I loved the concept of this dance, and I think she executed it really well. I have not seen much from Alona, so I don't have a great deal of history with how she's evolved through this competition. Um, but what I can say is that she really embodied the theme of this dance. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed watching it. I thought the performance aspect of it, like her theatrics in it, were really on point and really
Mm-hmm.
solid. I think she did about as good a job as she could with this dance. I think it's actually a good dance for her. I don't know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of her personality, but it just felt like this was leaning in to an aspect of her that was going to play really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she had the staccato right, she had the thematics right. There was great musicality. The performance was great. I would I've liked a little bit more technical steps. Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that there was definitely some movements that were not quite as low as I would have liked to have seen them. But all in all, I thought she did about as good as she could do with this performance.
When you say weren't as low, do you mean like she didn't lunge low enough?
Yeah, on in Paso, there's many steps that are really elongated, a little
Mm.
bolero like at times, where you get so low to the ground and then you come up. Yeah, obviously, you're moving back and forth typically instead of side to side, but the real nice distinct lunges that are in Paso,
Mm-hmm.
just didn't see them. But all in all, I thought it was a good routine.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved this for her. I thought like it really was well suited for her, like being like such a force. Like she had the power here, and I loved that. I also thought the opening sequence of her walking out, like we're seeing kind of this like a little bit more sensual, sexy side that like she doesn't really lean into here, and that's like part of her narrative. I understand on this show. And I was so impressed. I was like actually very happy for her when
Mm-hmm.
this ended. I felt proud. I thought she did a fantastic job. I thought this was a great song pairing and choreography pairing. um, I just thought it was awesome. I thought she did a great job.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Score.
7, just because of
Okay.
lack of technicals.
Okay. Okay.
Lack of not technical execution, but I would have lack of the technicalness of the dance.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so one other piece of like context is, one of the things Alona had talked a lot about is um, feeling like she needed to prove why she is still here, and being in the semifinals, and so that was also like a big part of the theme of the package for this week. And so Carrie Ann encouraged Alona to never doubt her place in the semifinals, and really use this dance as an example of how much growth she has achieved, how much improvement she has given, or demonstrated. Like definitely the most improved dancer from the beginning. So they highlighted that through this dance, saying that it was strong and focused and sharp and powerful. So the comments from the judges were really positive, and they ended with a nine. Sorry, two nines and a 10, and the 10 was from Derek.
Feels overgraded, but who am I to question the judges? Just wait till later. We'll get to that answer.
All right, let's move on to Danny and Whitney's Viennese Waltz.
Mm-hmm. Viennese waltz. We go from some of my least favorite smooth dances to my favorite smooth dance, highly technical dance. Okay, I'm getting a lot of hate for being a hater on Danny. I want to remind all of you in the audience. We started this where we were doing Jen and Joey, the Bachelor contestants. And I said, no, 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 I need to concoct a reason to put Danny in there because he's a New England Patriot. He's my guy. And so it's like, oh, 3 is better than 2. So we'll jam jam Danny in there. So nobody wants Danny to be good more than me. Nobody wants to root for him. But I am an honesty broker. I refuse to pretend like he's good. He's not. I refuse to have my integrity, blemished like the judges do every week by overgrading this guy. I'm sorry. This was not a good dance. His around the world was terrible. He did around the world in both sets, and
Can
I
you
am partial
describe
to
what
the
an
around.
around the world is?
Yes, it is. So the around the world, it's a really really common thing where it's when you kind of drop into a squat and around the world the your partner, and it's like this
It's
really
almost like
beautiful
a dip.
flourishing.
Oh,
It's basically a
almost.
dip, but it's really a dip from a squat, right? And the thing is, it's actually a very easy thing to execute on. The man just has to literally drop dead straight into a squat, and then there's no pitching forward. There's no like really arms. The he literally just rests the woman on his leg basically, and then she kind of leans back, and he just does contra body motion. So that's a nice, beautiful kind of a round, round circular sort of
Mhm.
motion. The first thing that people typically do, leads typically do, is they think it's all arms and they pitch forward. This is like the worst possible thing you can do because then you lose balance. It looks ugly. And he did that in both of his routines. He did the exact same mistake. Didn't get low
Mm.
enough. It was all Whitney. And I love the around the world. It's something that I'm one of those weird people. I do around the world in casual dances. We'll be out at the on a random dance floor wherever, and I'm dropping around the world in there. I love it
All
so
right,
much.
let's go back to Danny's Viennese waltz.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I was getting there. I promise. So the around the world was terrible. His footwork on the basic step was just appalling. The arms, just leave them at your side if that's what you're going to do with them.
Jeez.
The only impressive thing that I can say is that again, this week's social media challenge is going to be that lift off the floor, which was a beautiful, beautiful lift. But I mean that's not salvaging this routine. It was hard to watch. The musicality was fine, the thematics of it were fine, but he just can't execute it. He's not a performer, and so
Mm.
it was a miss for me all around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to watch Danny because all I want to do is watch Whitney. She's so incredible, and
Mhm.
I thought essentially what she was trying to talk about in the choreography of this dance is that you're two people that are kind of drawn to each other and are not good for each other, and so like you keep like and so gravity keeps pulling you back together, but like
Mhm.
you don't belong together, and so kind of like I appreciated the performance and the use of the door and all of that stuff. I I think that Danny tries really hard. Like I wasn't
Mhm.
sure how seriously like he would take this, but like he's a competitor. He is here. He is focused. When we get to the salsa, I'll give you a little bit more behind the scenes there of kind
Mhm.
of what we were seeing. But like he takes this really, really seriously, and you see that in the way that he dances. And I think that that gets in the way. And I'm sorry to call you out about this, Chris, but you do the exact same thing. This is exactly how you are. You're so focused and in your head about the steps and about getting it right and about what you remember that like you lose the connection and you lose the performance aspect. It looks like you're not having any fun because you want to get it so right and get it so perfect. And so I was seeing a lot of you in the way that Danny danced. And so I
Well,
don't mean that
damn.
I don't mean that to be critical. I just more mean I think that's what we're seeing, and I think maybe the reason that you're being so hard on Danny, bringing on out my therapist hat, is because you're projecting,
I
because you
was going
know
to
that
ask,
that
is
is
this a parallel process? Is that what that is, or no? Is parallel process something different?
it's more of a projection because
Okay.
you're being hard on him as a way to essentially not maybe take the focus, deflect from being hard on yourself. And maybe the reason that you're so hard on him is because this is something that you get critical feedback about all the time. Think about what Ricardo says to you when we're dancing together. Like, look at your wife, like have fun.
I always have fun dancing, even if I don't look like I'm having fun dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, ready
But
for the score?
anyway, all
Oh,
this. Sorry, I didn't intend for that to be a roast. I was just more saying that's the similarity. That's what I was feeling. But go ahead, give me your
so
score.
we're kindred spirits, is what you're saying.
Yeah, ish. I mean, I'm a little bit more gentle to Danny, but maybe that's my own
All right.
projection, my own bias, because
All right.
I am partial to you.
Well, this is fitting because this is what I'd rate my dancing as of late. 6.
Okay. All right. So the um the judges had a similar feeling as we did in that like the emotional rawness was sometimes lost, and that sometimes like the um again the determination got maybe in the way of that emotional rawness. But one thing that Carrie Ann talked about was like the integrity that Danny has in his dancing, which I think is there, like again in like
Mm-hmm.
especially like wanting to get it right. They earned straight nines from the judges.
Oh my god. Again, I refuse to lower my integrity in score on
Your own
nepotism or
integrity.
blackmail or whatever it is, whatever's keeping him at nines. Yeah.
Hotness. He is a very good looking man.
Yeah. Well, and Whitney's, doing some damage herself over there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's got to be great from a production standpoint when pretty much every week your social media challenge, viral challenge of the week is coming off of Danny and Whitney every week. Like that
Mm-hmm.
alone is, and I am no way claiming that there's anything other than honest judging going on, right? But I could understand why someone might suspect dishonest judging going on when you're getting that kind of free publicity all over social media every week. I'm not saying anything untoward is
Well,
happening.
you
Just
have to remember that a big part of this show is the audience vote. And
mhm,
so that's Whitney being smart about like what is going to appeal to the audience. What are
yeah,
they going to obsess over? And so she's a genius, like
mhm,
in what she is putting together, and we see that in the salsa for sure.
mhm, yeah.
All right, let's go to Stephen and Riley's cha cha.
Okay, I like Steven a lot, and I think Steven and Riley were so well paired together. They're both like cute as buttons, and they just seem like fun people, right? The Cha Cha, it was a fun and cute routine. I thought it embodied the style of Cha Cha fairly well, but it didn't really look like a Cha Cha from the dance perspective, right? Like, he. Um, didn't have good, locks in his steps, didn't have good knees. He felt like he didn't really understand like what the cha-cha was really about. I thought
Mm-hmm.
thematically it made sense, but I just don't think that he really understood what that dance means and symbolizes and it was just like a series of steps to him. Um,
Yeah.
and it's also, of the rhythm dances, it's technical, right? It's not samba technical, but it's like certainly more technical than salsa, right? And it's more difficult, I think, to execute than say rumba technicals. So I just it just left me wanting more. And I'm disappointed because I really like the Cha Cha and I really like Steven. And but I just can't be happy with that performance for him.
In the preview for this dance when they were doing their practice, it was very clear Stephen was struggling with the cha cha. Like it just wasn't really he wasn't really able to get it into his body. We talked about this when we did cha cha last week or the week before. Cha cha's really hard. It's very technical, and I think it's really hard for it to look good because there's so many things to keep in mind. You're moving sideways, you're moving forward, you're moving back. You need to move your hips. You need to keep your knees locked. You need to keep your legs straight. You need to keep your toes pointed. Like it's so much to remember. And so he was really struggling with that, and you saw it. This was definitely not his strongest performance, and but he again as an Olympian, like he persevered. It felt like he just pushed through the entire time. He kept going and kept the energy up, and so from a performance aspect, I appreciated that. But it was not my favorite.
Mhm. Yep.
So what is your score for Steven?
7, a sad 7.
7. Okay, so you scored him higher than Danny.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I
um
really, really disliked Danny's performance.
wow, I think you might be a little bit too hard on him, just saying. All right, so back to Steven. So judge feedback. Derek said that he felt like the dance got the better of him and pointed out issues like bent legs, heel leads, and turned feet. Bruno commented that he captured the feel of the dance, but needs to work harder on his hip placement and foot action. And Carrie-Anne acknowledged the dance is a step back in his musicality. So
Mhm.
they also had a lot of more critical feedback to give him, and he was so gracious with the feedback too. He was like, yeah, I know, like I everything they're saying is like accurate.
Mhm.
Regardless though, he scored 2 8s and a 9.
Overscored again. But I understand that there is scoring inflation going on here at getting later in the competition. So there's now like a floor. Like I feel like nobody can get lower. You have to bomb to get like a 7 or lower. It kind of feels
Mm-hmm.
like grad school, right? When you're in undergrad, like you can get D's and F's and C's, but when you get to grad school, like you basically you get A or B, and a B minus is basically like an F, or I guess like a D. And if you get a C, it's basically like an F, right? There's no D's and F's in grad school. That's what it feels like here.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but certainly if you're my student, you'd really have to do a lot to get like an A minus. Okay. So in terms of round one, it sounds like you think Chandler won round one.
I believe I got Joey and Chandler both with nines in round one. And then I've got seven and for Alona and Steven and a six for Danny. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I'm at right now. Yep.
Okay. And then the way it kind of turned out last night is that Joey was at the top and Steven was at the bottom. Um, so that's the way the leaderboard went
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
going into round
Okay.
two. All right, so now we're on to dance number 2 for Chandler and Brandon, and they too had a foxtrot.
Mm-hmm. My favorite dance.
Yes, as we've heard.
Okay. Look, let's start with the really important things. The decor, loved it. The wardrobe, loved it. Okay. Song, loved it. So already we're like starting off. I'm like, I'm feeling this theme. I like it. Foxtrot,
Mm-hmm.
not wild about it. But let's see where this takes me. She is so beautiful and so graceful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pleasure to watch her. She's just so like natural. Her turns were extremely smooth. She had a great extended frame that you would not expect from an amateur dancer. Um, you know, uh, this was a real pleasant watch for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was it the most technically perfect? No, but who cares? Because for 90 seconds, she made me love the foxtrot.
Wow.
10.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's so interesting. So this is where I agree with everything that you said. It was so gorgeous. And I like it was kind of blowing my mind how they did a foxtrot to this song. Like
Mm-hmm.
and so kudos to Brandon for choreographing such a beautiful routine. It was really, really stunning. And she's just so beautiful to watch. It's interesting that you point out yeah, there were some technical things wrong, but who cares? Well, you know who cared? Carrie Ann cared. Um, and this is where like Carrie Ann's getting a lot of negative feedback. So not only do I watch the show, but I also watch what happens on social media and the
Yeah,
fallout
we've
there.
never talked really about the judges except for like Derek, really by name.
Mm-hmm.
Do who like what are the general opinions of these three judges? Like as judges, not as dancers.
I think people are getting really tired of Carrie Ann
Hmm.
this season and for the last several. The big criticism about Carrie Ann is that she seems to have a negative bias toward women, like
Hmm.
the I'm sorry, the stars that are women, and is way more critical on them than she is on the men. It's kind of furthered a little bit where it's like maybe it's women that don't possess like more traditional like female like attributes, like someone like that might be a little stiffer,
Mm-hmm.
like Alona or something like that. But generally speaking, she tends to be really pretty critical of women. And so,
Okay.
and that's definitely coming through in the judging as it relates to Chandler this season. That's been
Hmm.
very consistent. And Bruno is, he's like a theatrical guy. He's over the top, like, and so he's a good entertainment factor. And he tends to be pretty positive.
Hmm.
Yes, he gives criticism, but he's like an over the top. Like every rating, he's like, getting his foot up on the table
Podium
and like
thing, table. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he's just very theatrical, very entertaining. And so that's why Derek is a really nice kind of like grounding
Mhm.
force between the two of them.
Yeah, makes sense. All right.
Um,
So their
okay, so
feedback of
so I mean, the feedback was very, very positive, but Carrie Ann pointed out that there was at least one point at which Chandler's foot left the ground in a lift, which is illegal in Foxtrot. And so she pointed that out. She's like, I just want to let you know that I saw your foot leave the ground a couple of times, and I've given you feedback on that before. And so I just want to point that out to you now. And they got into a back and forth, Carrie Ann and more specifically Brandon, because Brandon was like, you've never told me that before. And she was like, well, I did. And I don't really have time to get back to that. And I think Carrie Ann also is getting negative feedback because how dare you talk about technicality with Chandler, but with someone like Danny, that you're not going to like rip on him for that. And I can
Mhm.
see it both ways, right? Like I could see that when someone is more advanced and more experienced and clearly just
Yeah.
a better dancer, of course the feedback is going to get more
Judge
critical.
them to their level. Judge them
Exactly.
to a standard that you believe that is attainable to them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that is what she is doing, but because it feels so consistent in the way that the judging just seems so negatively skewed from her specifically
Mhm.
to Chandler, that like there's been a lot of pushback around that.
Interesting.
And it turns out, of course, like TikTok rewinds the tapes, and she actually never gave that feedback to Brandon before. She gave it to Sasha about he and Jen.
Mm.
And so she, misremembered essentially that she had
Sure.
given
Yeah.
them this feedback in the past. But either way, this was an illegal lift. So she dinged them for
I
that.
I did not know that about Foxtrot actually.
Mm.
I'm gonna go look up what that actually what exactly specifics around what she's talking about.
Yeah, report
Again,
back. Well,
yeah.
I know like much of the Dancing with the Stars community is really confused about that. And so I imagine our audience would
These are
appreciate some sort of
amateur
follow up.
spotlight. I'm sorry. These are amateur spotlight routines.
Mm-hmm.
Relax, Carrie Ann. Relax.
I
Right?
know. Well,
Like,
that's I think the vibe is like what like
yeah.
that, and you're gonna ding me a whole point in the semifinals. Anyway, so she got a 9 from Carrie Ann and a 10 each from Derek and Bruno.
Yeah, Carrie Ann should just be disqualified as a judge if she's giving anything like that was if you go back and rewind and watch every single dance for the entire season when all is said and done, if that is not right at the top, I would be shocked. That was a well executed, beautiful routine that hit all the notes.
Yeah, I agree. It was gorgeous.
All right, so shall we move on to Joey? Right?
We've got Joey's Paso.
Yeah, Paso Doble, number 2 of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I love this. It was maybe perhaps a little too on the nose with the theme, but I liked it. I felt the theme. I liked just the aggressiveness that came out. I thought the song was a good choice. I thought he danced it really well. Still needs to work on the arms. I thought, the arms were better in the first dance and the second dance. That being said, I don't have a lot of feedback, good, bad. I just thought it was a good, solid performance. It was well executed. That was reasonably technical and reasonably well performed. And, Jenna is awesome.
We haven't had heard much of your Jenna crush from the evening, so I was glad we'd get some of it.
I was gonna say the wardrobe selection for Paso with Jenna, not appropriate for this podcast. That's my commentary on that.
Listen,
I know what you're going as next Halloween.
That's funny. Honestly, Joey looked amazing. I was like, damn, Joey is really hot. Like he looks great. But more about their dancing. When I was listening to the judging of this, it was so validating because actually while I watched it, like I so wanted this to be great and I really wanted to love it, but I just like couldn't put my finger on like why I didn't. And I watched it twice on YouTube before I watched the show, and I was like, this just like isn't hitting for me. Like, why isn't it? And then the judges called out that there was a timing issue. Like nearly the entire time he was ahead. And I think as I think about this dance and I think about Steven's dance, that's one of the great challenges when you're learning a new dance is that you're just so focused on the steps that you can't yet pair it with the music. You can't hear the count in the music. And so like that's the tell when you just are doing a routine and you don't actually know the dance, is that the timing just doesn't make sense. And it just never quite gelled for me because I was so distracted by it was like just like maybe half a count off. And I just could never fully like get in, even though I really, really wanted to. But again, that's like a more minor issue. I thought they're just so well matched. They did a great job. Jenna's amazing. Joey's awesome. Like I thought it was very entertaining, but like it was missing for me.
Yep, that's fair.
What was your score?
8.
Damn. Okay.
Damn good, damn bad.
That's pretty low, considering they earned 2 9s and a 10 from Derek.
That's right on pace. I like it feels like I'm right in line with where I normally am. Like if I sorted an 8 and they got two tens and a 9, that would be, I think, outside one standard deviation.
Okay, fair. All right, let's move on to Alona and Alan's Viennese.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to make like a metaphor that's going to be a little labored here. Bear with me to the end, okay? Elona reminds me of a 300 pound lineman who runs a 4.7 and has a 30-inch vertical jump, okay? When you watch them, you feel like what they are doing is not physically possible. They are defying physics, and it is awesome to watch, right? That's kind of the feeling I get with Alona. Like, she shouldn't have this much finesse and this much gracefulness, but she just has it. And you don't feel like she should be able to kind of perform as well as she does.
Mm-hmm.
But she does, she has it, and it's so interesting to watch. And I really, there's just something about her that I really like. And look, she's not the best dancer out there. She's nowhere near Chandler. She's nowhere near Joey, right? But and she's probably just on the scoring alone. She's probably been overscored, to keep her here this long. But I get it. She's a fun person to watch. She's somebody you want to root for, and there's so many things there that are just so like gravitating to about
Mm-hmm.
her, and just even about the way she dances. She had an excellent frame. I thought her timing and musicality was good. She seemed so comfortable in the dance, and this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like something that she should be comfortable doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she like made me believe that she's a dancer, and I think that's the
Yeah.
most interesting thing about Alona. So I don't have a great score for her, but I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy she's here, and I enjoyed the watch, even though my score is not going to be super great
Mm-hmm.
for her.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I even as you were talking about it, I had tears like prick up in my eyes watching her during this episode. She's truly incredible. I understand why she has the popularity that she does, in addition to being an Olympic athlete, an Olympic rugby player, because she's just got so much heart, and you just see it and feel it, and she's so earnest in everything that she does. But as I alluded to previously, a lot of her journey is this feeling of not necessarily like fitting into this kind of dance world, because she is, someone that as she said, like she runs through people, like she likes to lift weights and run through people, like she's a fierce competitor on the rugby pitch. And so like that juxtaposition of then doing this dance that is so graceful and so like flows in this way where, and she kept saying like the really difficult thing about Viennese waltz is you never stop moving, like there are no pauses and there are no breaks, and you just need to flow the entire time, and that's not embodied to her. And so she, I think this whole time has been struggling with what it means for her to be graceful and delicate. Like she's not usually described in that way. And I thought that she did such a beautiful job in this dance. It was all of those things. So
Mhm.
I felt really proud of her in watching this. It was way more dancing than I was expecting
Mhm.
um, from her in this. But I just loved watching it. I get why she's here. I get why
Mhm.
she's made it this far for sure.
Yep.
So what is your score? I know you're saying it's not very high, but what is your score?
7.
7. Okay. Well, she earned 2 10s and a 9 from Derek.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
All right. Well, let's move to your boy Danny and my girl Whitney for their salsa.
Yes. Okay. Um, Again, back to our favorite dances. Okay. We know how much I did not like his Viennese waltz. I thought the salsa was the weaker of the two dances.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, there was no
Again,
dancing.
there was no dancing. We already talked about the Around the World. The Around the World was actually worse in this one than it was in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
He was off timing pretty consistently. He looked clumsy, heavy footed, and stiff throughout the entire thing. The lifts and tricks are the only thing that saved this dance.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a ton of them, and they were impressive. But they supplemented bad technicals and lack of choreography with a bunch of impressive lifts and tricks.
Mm-hmm.
It was his entire week was a miss for me.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did think that this was one of his weaker nights. If this were a lifts and tricks competition, Danny would win. And one of the things that Whitney had said in their package leading up to it is, where Danny is really good because he's so strong and athletic is in the lifts and tricks. And so, like, let's just go for it in
Mm-hmm.
this performance. And that's what she designed. You're watching these athletes and the way that they attack competition, and we'll get to Steven in a second, but Danny, you see, like, they showed timestamps. They were there until after 10 o'clock nights in a row, just drilling this until they got it perfect. And he was saying, like, no, we're not stopping until we've got it or one of us pukes. Like, that's like that. That's like, we're gonna go until we get this. And I thought he executed the lifts and tricks really well. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it was another point at which I think there was so much focus and attention. And going back to the theme of the night, they've never danced these dances before, and so it's like kind of going like this, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I get why there was an emphasis on lifts and tricks for him. Whitney, again, genius here and adding
Mm-hmm.
that in, but I wish I saw more salsa. I just didn't see it. At one point I was like, are we watching a cha-cha? Like, I completely couldn't even put together what dance we were watching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but kudos to Danny for his competitiveness and for his athleticism and his determination. Like, you could see in these athletes specifically, like, why they are champions.
Yep.
What's your
Still
score?
doesn't save his score for me though. 6.
Okay. Well, he got nines across the board.
Whitney's social media presence is saving him everywhere right now, and being hot, I'm sure, helps him and
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Yeah. They're a good duo. I actually, I almost sent this to you.
Oh
I
wait, who
watched
do,
it.
who do you think is hotter, Jenna and Joey, or Danny and Whitney?
Jenna and Joey.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. All right. What were you going to send to me?
I saw a clip of Danny with Gronk and Edelman as well as Whitney, and they were saying, like, who knows Danny better, like, you two
Mm-hmm.
or Whitney, and it was just really funny meatheady stuff. But they're really trying to get the vote out there too for Danny. So
Mm-hmm.
again, he's got to have a big fan base as well, and in addition to what Whitney is designing in terms of getting him votes. So I think that's a big reason why he's here.
Yeah, just remember that there are a lot of people out there that really don't want to see a New England Patriot do any more winning. So you got to be a little careful with that. That is a door that swings both ways, right?
Well, maybe it works in his favor that the Patriots are having such a bad season.
Yeah, that's fair. That seasons plural. It's been a few. It's been
All
I'm
right,
not allowed
let's
to complain. We had 20 years of a run. I'm not allowed to complain for 3 or 4 bad years.
let's go to the final dance of the evening. That
Mm-hmm.
was Stephen and Riley's tango.
Okay, Steven, I still love you, buddy, but this was a little low energy for me. It was a little bit of a boring routine. Did not feel comfortable the entire time. It, and this is going to sound mean, and I don't want it to be mean because I like Steven a lot, but it felt like a really well executed wedding dance where the bride has been taking dance lessons for years and the groom is just trying not to mess up her really big day. Right? Like, that's the best way I can describe it. She was doing a lot of dancing around and doing a bunch of fun stuff, being the picture, and he was really just being the frame, just sort of like marching around next to her, behind her. Not great technicals. The feet, the pigeon footedness was non-existent. He was kind of way too upright. It just wasn't great, and it wasn't a particularly captivating performance either.
Okay. So a couple things, just some behind the scenes background stuff. One of the things that Riley talked about was how, because Steven is a gymnast, like, he's got this incredible upper body strength. And so really trying to lean on the tango and having him be in frame most of the time, and, like, really hold her, deal with some lifts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of her strategy and like her thought process around it. And he seemed much more comfortable in frame going
Mm-hmm.
into the tango. And he also talked about how, like, whenever he is gearing up for a competition for gymnastics, like, that is all he focuses on day in and day out is the routine. And so you could see him, and I guess I bring this in because I admire athletes and athleticism so much, and you could just see the tenacity that these
Mm-hmm.
three athletes had, specifically. So I appreciated that. The thing that I really appreciated watching this routine, and they did hit on it in the judging feedback, is that his glasses were halfway on for a quarter of the routine, and then Riley had to remove them at one point. And so he was
Was that not part
had
of the routine?
no, that was not part of the routine.
Oh, I thought that was part of the routine.
In all of the head movement and that sharp head movement that happens in tango, his glasses got loose and they were like
Mm.
kind of haphazardly on his
Cockeyed. Yeah, yeah,
face.
yeah.
And you wear glasses, like
That's
how
even worse
difficult.
than not wearing them.
Exactly. And that's what Carrie Ann was saying. And like
Mm-hmm.
he just persevered. He kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is such, again, a dedicated performer, a dedicated competitor. So that part I really like to see. The glasses being cockeyed it was honestly distracting me from the performance because I was like, oh shit, this really sucks for him.
See, I was
Um
so focused on the feet and the lower
mm,
half with Tango, I didn't even notice the glasses. I started whip them off, and I'm like, oh, part because there's a thing about him is he does the Superman thing. That's sort of like his thing,
mm,
right? And so he throws the glasses off all the time. So I just assume that his vision's not so bad that he can't be wearing them. And I also, we've seen him throw the glasses so many times. I assumed it was part of the routine. Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
no, was not. So
Mhm.
Riley removed them at one point when she had essentially a free hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, kudos to Stephen for not breaking frame to do
Yeah.
that. But what was your score for this tango?
I'm feeling a little bit guilty on this score now, but 7.
Okay.
You know what?
Well,
I knowing the glasses situation, do I? No, you know what? Take integrity. 7 it is. I have to be
okay.
true to. I have to be true to what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely talked about the judges actually talked about like the glasses, that he kind of accomplished the mission of the tango, that his performance was impressive, definitely outshined the cha-cha from earlier, like he needed that. So they scored it 2 9s and a 10 from Carrie Ann.
I mean, that's an insane score for that dance, right? Like, I'm not wrong here. They're insane. Is that? Are you
That
going to
it
go
was
down that
I
path
thought
with
it
me?
I thought it was a high score for it. I did.
By
I don't
points, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's like this is where Carrie Ann gave a 10 for that, but she gave a 9 for Chandler, and that's why
There's
the audience is outraged, you know?
and justifiably so. Look, I love Steven. I think this guy is so cool. I think
Yeah.
Riley is just fun. Now, I think Riley, unfortunately, is nowhere near to the level of Whitney and Jenna. But
Well, she's
she also,
probably 10 years younger at
I was going to
least.
say, she's got to be
At
like, she's a
least.
baby compared to them,
Yeah.
So, but still, like, I really like Steven and want to score him high and want him to do really well. But, a 10 is insane for that routine.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, you give it 10 for that and you give Chandler a 9. They're both dancing fox. No, one's a foxtrot, one's a tango. Still, both smooth dances, kind of comparable difficulty. I'd
Yeah.
be outraged too. I'd be
Yeah.
absolutely outraged. Yeah.
Right. And so as far as the judging leaderboard goes for round 2, Joey and Chandler are tied for first,
Mm-hmm.
and Stephen and Riley are in the bottom.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't do the total scores, but I believe I would have Chandler at the top with 19. I believe 17 would be Joey. I think I did an 8 and a 9 for him. Then Steven and Alona tied at 14, and then Danny at the bottom with 12. That would be my
Mm,
scoring this week.
damn. Okay. So who do you think went home this week?
Um, I mean, based on performances alone, the correct person, if it's just based on performances alone, Danny should have gone home, but we know he didn't. Um, I I think it's very clearly either Steven or Alona. I'm gonna I'm gonna go with Steven and Riley go home.
Mm.
I just think Alona, I would have probably sent Alona home. I think she's the worst dancer, but I think that there's just something about her that's really captivating. And I bet that the crowd, I think there's probably a lot of
She's got a big
relatability in
enough
the
fan
crowd. And
base.
I think she's got a
Yeah.
big fan base. And while I think Steven is fun and adorable and, Riley's cute, like I don't think that fan base is anywhere near as big. So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
not surprising.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're
I don't
wrong.
see how, what, say again?
I
I'm
said you're
wrong?
wrong.
Oh, I thought you were nodding because I was right. Okay. Who did Alona go home?
No.
Danny? Joey? Chandler went home?
No. No one went home.
We're out
They're
of
keeping them.
contestants.
They're keeping them all. They all made it to the finale. So we have
Wait,
a
no,
5-person
we're not even.
finale.
So what do the scores even matter then?
I
How did
mean,
they
come
keep?
on.
Wait. Who is? They were supposed to send a couple home and they didn't send
Yeah.
a couple home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who makes that call?
I don't know.
There were
I don't
very
know.
clearly 2 people that belong in the finale and 3 people that do not belong in the finale. What was so difficult about this? What was so difficult about eliminating? Was it that
Listen,
you
we
couldn't
know
decide among the
ABC.
bottom?
They do everything to milk a 3-hour episode. So that's
Oh
what
my
we got
God.
next week, a 3-hour finale.
Well, you got a 3-hour finale. I got what, 10 dances? By the way, I got a bone to pick with you. I just remember this. You shorted me some group dances. Apparently, I haven't watched them yet, but apparently there was like some 4-on-4 group dances a week or 2 ago or something. We didn't talk about those.
Disney night. Disney night.
So you're telling me there was a couple of group dances we didn't even recap?
We didn't discuss, but I mean, I watched them.
Audience, you see what I'm dealing with here? We'll have to go back. I'll watch those and maybe we'll talk about them over dinner this weekend.
I mean, truthfully, I don't really think they were that worth it. But next week,
I heard there was somebody wearing neon green in there, though.
Yeah, Joey.
Worth it to me.
So apparently all of the judges' scores and the viewers' votes will carry over into the finale, where each pair will perform a freestyle dance. I don't know what that means yet. I will look into it and see what to expect. I don't know. I don't know what that means. But this is the second consecutive year.
Very jazz and contemporary.
This is the second consecutive year that every contestant in the semifinals has advanced to the finale.
Yeah, I'm out on that decision. But no one asked my opinion, except for our viewers. Thank you for watching, as always.
Yes, so thank you for being here. Who are you? Well, I'm curious if you're watching. Are you voting? Are you a viewer voter? And if so, who are you voting for? Are they getting all of your 10 votes? What are you doing? How are you splitting that up? I'm going to be voting next week. That I will do. But we will be back next week talking about Dancing with the Stars finale, the final episode of this season. 3-hour episode. I'm in. You might be in too. Hey, we're going to be home together. We could watch it together.
But that would manipulate my takes. I can't watch the judging and the crowd and all the crowd noise and stuff like that. I need, my takes have to be unmolested.
Fine. I will be watching the 3-hour finale. And so we'll be back with that next week. Hope you have a great week. In the meantime, follow along with us on Instagram at Reactivity TV. You can follow me at Amy Albero, LCSW. Drop any thoughts, feedback, questions, your own ratings, your own scores. Drop them in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.